Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us for this first session on Agentic AI for the developer. We are really, really happy to propose you this program during the June month. So AI agents are really the buzzword actually. So if you have not yet begin to develop agents or if you have already begin to look at them, I hope that you will find this session useful for you. So we organize a series of 5 sessions. So this is the first one. This is the keynote. And so we will follow up with the other session every week, 1 hour live. So that's great. So I'm really happy. So let's get started with the keynotes. So we have a special guest for the keynotes. I have the pleasure to discuss with Patrick Chanezon, who is a VP Developer Audience at Microsoft Corp. So Patrick has a very interesting different job in different company from Google, Docker, and VMware and some ecosystem. So thank you very much, Patrick, for your being here and helping us evangelize the AI agents topics. We are super proud to have you on this show, and I'll let you begin this keynote.
Thanks for organizing this, Dominique. I think it's if you're a developer today, it's the most interesting period I've ever seen in my career. The ability to like to invent and to innovate with these AI agents is really unparalleled compared to everything that I've seen in the past. All right, so hi everyone. As Dominique said, I'm VP of Developer Relations at Microsoft, and today I'm going to try to give you a big overview of everything that you can do with agents, how to achieve more with agents. So first, a bit about myself. Like Dominique said, I'm French. That's why I'm on this program. We're doing it in English so that the video can be shared with a wider audience. I spent half of my career building software for Netscape, AOL, Sun Microsystems. Then the other half of my career evangelizing, doing developer relations. I helped start it at Google, then did it at VMware, Microsoft, and at Docker. What I've always been interested in my career is developer productivity. Like the thread across all the things I've done is about helping developers achieve more and faster. And right now, I think we're in a golden era for developers in terms of productivity. That's a question I'm asking myself very often, like, why am I in this industry? What brought me here? And you should ask yourself the question, like, what brought you here into software development? For myself, it's when I was a kid, I used to read a lot of science fiction, Isaac Asimov with I, Robot, or I watched Star Wars. It came out when I was 10 years old. And I grew up dreaming of talking robots and smart machines. And I thought, maybe I can help build some of that. But I didn't imagine that we'd have like something that looks like it in my lifetime. And I think we're in that period where it's starting to happen. And I find it like super exciting. And I hope you will too. So today in this talk, we're going to talk about AI transformation. We'll talk about AI agents, what they are. Then we'll talk about protocols around it, what we call the open agentic web. Then we'll talk about AI agents for developers. If you're a developer, what can you do with them? And then how to build them with two ways. One with Copilot Studio. If you're not a developer, we have a tool that lets you build agents with low code. And then AI Foundry, when you want all the control, you can build your agents. We have a full platform for that. So let's talk about AI transformation. One paper I highly recommend, and actually like following that author, you should follow him on LinkedIn, is Ethan Mollick's paper. And there's many authors in there. It's a paper from BCG, and that was published on the Harvard Business Review. What they talk about here is they made some experiment having consultants at BCG leverage AI, and they looked at how they were leveraging it and what the effect was. And the first concept that I found very interesting in this book is the concept of the jagged frontier, where what they're explaining is that at every moment, and that article is like a few years old, it may be 2 years old now, but but it's still true today. At every moment, the frontier of what AI is able to do in a specific area, it is jagged, which is there's not a clear-cut set of things that it can do. There are some things that it is really good at, and some things that it's failing at doing, and this frontier moves like every month. The models become more proficient. We train them with better data. And so that frontier is moving, but it is jagged, and you need to discover what it is for your specific area. I'll give you an example. A few years ago, when we introduced GitHub Copilot, many of my colleagues, I was part of a group called Commerce and Ecosystems, were using GitHub Copilot to build SAP applications. And they realized GitHub Copilot doesn't know how to do SAP. And so we started working with SAP. We had the engineers on both sides started talking. And then, I think it was a year and a half later, there was a release of GitHub Copilot where, hey, it became really proficient at coding in ABAP and help you build SAP applications. So this frontier is moving all the time. So you need to experiment and discover how good it is for what you're trying to do. The other concept that was really interesting in that paper, that they showed that for experts in an area, like people with lots of experiences, they grow, they improve their productivity. This is what you're seeing on the diagram on the right here. But for beginners, the improvement is much higher. And so what it means is that for beginners, they're becoming much more proficient than they were. But even for experienced people, you can get some productivity boost out of it. So I highly recommend Ethan's book, Co-Intelligence, where he talks about how to apply AI to many different areas of business. And the Salman Khan book is really good as well, where he talks about how it applies to education with lots of good ideas in there. For engineers or for people building system, there's a new category of jobs that appeared that's called AI engineers. This analyst called Shane Wang or Swix on that's his Twitter handle. He has a podcast. I highly recommend his podcast. You learn a lot there. He's got a website, a blog, and he organizes conferences. So now there are AI engineer summits. He crafted this notion of the AI engineer, which is like the full stack engineer, but adding a bunch of AI to every aspect of what they're building. And this role is just evolving with lots of different sub roles in there and specialties. So this is really an interesting space. There's a lot to learn. So AI engineers are on one side the engineers who are building applications and who are now bringing AI into their application, into how they're building it, but also into the application itself. There's another category of users that are described into the 2024 Work Trend Index. It's a report that Microsoft creates with LinkedIn every year. The 2024 edition of the report talked about this notion of AI power users. So these are not engineers, they're users of software who are starting to adopt AI in companies and in their work. And so what they identified in that report, what I find really interesting is that power users who are bringing AI in their workflow feel more satisfied at work, they feel more productive and more creative. So really, like whether you're an engineer or not, AI and agents can really help you. That's kind of the takeaway here. What I found super interesting as another paper is the one that the Anthropic team created. It's a paper where they analyze the tasks performed with AI by the Claude AI assistant that Anthropic creates. And so what you see in these diagrams here, the diagram on the left is on one side the percentage of people in each role in the population, and then the orange marker in there is how they're using AI. And so what you're seeing is that there are some areas that really stick out, and computer developers, software developers are really a category that are using AI very much right now already in cloud. And there may be a bias in there in that cloud is really good as a model for coding. You can use it in GitHub Copilot, and it gives like really good results. And what you see on the diagram on the right is that, yeah, computer software developers are really a category that are using AI much more than others. So this transformation is happening right now. And if you're a developer, I highly encourage you to try some of these tools. GitHub Copilot is a good one. And if you're a power user, use tools like Copilot Studio that I'll talk about. All right, and then talking about programming, I learned a lot of my craft in O'Reilly books, and recently Tim O'Reilly started talking about this. He organized a conference recently, and there's been a lot of talk about people are saying with AI agents, the software developer role is going to disappear. Tim O'Reilly at that conference, I think he said that there's still a lot of software to be invented, and we're inventing a whole new stack right now. So I think there's a lot of work for software engineers. It's new work, there's new systems to be built, and we're going to leverage AI agents to help us build them. So that's for kind of the AI transformation. It's happening. I encourage you to embrace it. Now let's talk about AI agents. So the thing that makes AI agents possible is a new scaling law that was discovered, I think, a few years ago. The law that you see on the left is the train time scaling, where here what you see the fact of and it's in log scale. So every graduation on the y-axis is like 10x. Every graduation on the x-axis. So here what you see is the compute time that you're providing for training these large language models. So every time you go 10x, you improve the result of these LLMs. And that's what we saw with the GPT models from OpenAI, where at a certain level, I think it was in GPT 3.5 when ChatGPT came out, suddenly they started to be really good at answering questions, at making some useful comments, and at coding. One of the things that was discovered, I think it was 2 years ago, is this new scaling law that is testing time scaling, where when you're running the LLM, with these reasoning models, so that's a paper that OpenAI published. So you should read this one. I put the URL at the bottom here. When you're giving the model, and when you create these reasoning models and you give it more time at thinking time, then it can explore. It can create a plan, create a tree of decisions, and evaluate all of them, and then like cut that tree and decide on the one that is the most promising, and then go in this area. And if you give it more time to create that tree and explore that tree and take the most promising branches of that tree, it requires some test time compute. When you're asking it to work, it can go for an hour or more. But if you're giving it that time, the results would be much better. So these are the reasoning models that starting with O3. The first benchmark on O3 was published last December, And I remember when I saw that benchmark, I thought, wow, like last November, I was kind of skeptical that we would see agents next year. I thought it's more like a 5-year horizon. When I saw that benchmark, I thought, oh, okay, so agents were going to have them like this year in 2025. And I think it's happening right now, thanks to the scaling law. So that's the benchmark that they published back then. And it's a benchmark where what you see in there is the cost in the axis and then the quality of the results for that RKGI benchmark, which is measuring the ability of large language models to do tasks that are at human level. And what you see that on the bottom left, you have all the previous models. And then when OpenAI created that O3 model, and when you give it a lot of test time compute, so this, I think the value that you see on the x-axis here for the highest score is around like $1,000 per task in the benchmark. So running the benchmark is super expensive. You can see that the quality of the results is amazing. It's the model arrives to do things that were like impossible for models even like a year ago. And so that O3 model is now out. You can access it through the API. We're using it in Microsoft products. And the thing is, the cost of it per task here is at $1,000 when they did the benchmark in December. But the cost of running these models, we're optimizing this at a very high speed. And so the cost is driving down all the time. And so it's going to become, as the month and years are advancing, it's becoming more and more cost effective to use them. So that's what makes agent possible, having these smart reasoning models that can plan things, that can plan a set of actions, and if you give it some time, it can do things asynchronously. So the design will be different. If you're using ChatGPT, the traditional way is you're asking it a question and it's spitting out an answer right away. With agents, they can go do things on their own. It's going to be an asynchronous system where you're asking it questions, it's going to ask you more precisions, it's going to plan things. So the agents are creating some plans. It's going to retrieve some context. And the big difference with agents is that now they can perform actions in the world. So these three things, creating a plan, retrieving context, and performing an action, is what makes agents different from the previous system that we were building. I'd say at a high level, if you want a high level definition, the definition I like that Seth Juarez was using and that I like a lot because it really simplifies the story, that an agent is it's a piece of software where the control flow is driven by the large language model. So there's this notion of action as well, but that's kind of a good first order view of what an agent is. So agents are already here. There's a famous William Gibson quote from Neuromancer where he says, the future is already here, it's not evenly distributed. It's very true for agents where today you can start using them today, and many of you are. So the two examples of product market fit for agents to me, the first one was deep research. Initially, it was made by Google. OpenAI created one similar one in ChatGPT, so it's available there, and now it's available in M365 as well. There's a researcher agent. I'll show you where to find it. So these agents are agents that help you do a deep research in a specific area. So you ask it a question. Like, for example, I'm doing developer relations for Microsoft when Google introduced the A2A agent-to-agent protocol. I thought we need a response pretty quickly on that. What should we do in developer relations? Is it a good protocol? Should we embrace it? And so I use deep research to create a 15-page memo. So I use the one from Google, from OpenAI, and then I use the researcher one that we have in M365 to do some more Microsoft-specific questions, like because the one in M365 knows everything about Microsoft. It's connected to our SharePoints, our plans, and all that. It has access to all the data I have access to. So this one, I was able to ask it some really deep Microsoft questions. And what the agent is doing is that it's going out on the web, searching for many websites. It's collecting all that information and it's creating a 15-page report about a specific topic with a plan. And it's pretty useful agent. That's one that I'm using on a regular basis now to do strategy documents. And then the second one is GitHub Copilot agent mode. So when you're using GitHub Copilot, if you go in agent mode, you can start asking it to build your whole application. And then it's the building an application becomes an interaction between you and Copilot. So it's really a different way of building software. You really have your peer programmer. That's a machine. And then the last thing I wanted to share there is the Work Trend Index, that report that Microsoft and LinkedIn are publishing every year. There's a new one that was published this year in 2025. And there they talk about the frontier firm, how companies need to transform themselves. And they create they define 3 levels of these frontier firms so that we start working with AI. The level 1 is humans with assistants. That's where many companies are today, where you're using copilots to help you build applications. The level 2 is human-led agents. So I'll show you what it looks like for some of the agents that I've been using. So for example, in your team in the past, you would have had probably like humans who are going to do some deep research about specific topic. Today, each of us will have access to the research agent in M365 Copilot, and you can ask it to just go do some of your due diligence that you would have asked a human to do before, or you would have had to do by yourself. And so a report that would take a week to compile by a human, now you just ask the research agent to just do it, and it will do it in an hour or two, and then you have your result. Same thing for coding. I'll show you an agent that's called the GitHub coding agent. That's something that we introduced at the Build conference. This one is your software engineering agent, and there's an SRE agent that we introduced for Azure as well. So we're moving to level 2, and Microsoft is very much in that transition right now, where we're in teams where it's a mix of humans and agents. So for different projects in my team, for example, we have a mix of humans and agents, and we start to discover how do we work with these agents together, what's the best workflow, what are a set of prompts that work well. So there's some things to be invented there in the future on that. And I think all of especially it's true in developer teams, are we need to start like working collaboratively with agents. And then the level 3 is agent-led work, where here humans are doing much less of the work. We set directions and we evaluate the work that AI agents have, where each of us will be managers of teams of agents, and together we'll build things in different departments. And so this requires like a profound like organizational transformation. We need to learn new skills. So one of the things that we're doing in DevRel is thinking about how do developers need to evolve their skills to move from individual contributor, where I'm working on my code by myself or with a team of humans, to I'm leading a team of agents, and to build like a complete product, I need to talk to different agents doing different things and then to evaluate their work. So that requires a new type of workflow. And I think we each need to like learn how to do that. And so that will be true for developers, but also for other roles where we'll need to become managers of agents. So that model is kind of a useful framework to think about the transformation that's happening right now. And Yann LeCun, who's one of the he's called one of the godfathers of AI. He got the Turing Prize for some of his work on some of the models that became the models that make all this revolution possible right now. He's working at Meta right now. And he had a LinkedIn conversation with Andrew Ng, who's another AI pioneer. And their conversation is about the fact that we're all going to become managers of agents nowadays. And so this is a new set of skills that we need to learn. Okay, so that's on agents. It's happening right now. You're going to use them whether you're a developer or not a developer. Now I wanted to dig a bit deeper about what we call the open agentic web, where there's been a set of developments across the industry. So this is not a Microsoft specific thing. It's really happening across the industry of creation of new open protocols and connection of like the web with this agentic world. So the stack for agentic applications look like this, where you have a bunch of agents. So I talked about ChatGPT. There's the researcher agent that I talked about, or GitHub Copilot. So this is the agentic layer where you have your agents who are interacting with humans. They have a user interface. Copilot is the user interface for AI on the Microsoft side. Then you have a runtime that has memory, entitlements, so security is super important here, a set of actions and tools, and then some reasoning capabilities. And then there's a set of protocols that have been developed, and I'm going to dig a bit deeper about that in them. MCP and A2A are two of the important ones. And then the world, the web, internet services, other agents, and so we can see a future where agents are going to talk to each other to execute things on your behalf. And in order to make that possible, we need the protocols for them to talk together. So the first protocol is called the MCP protocol, or Model Context Protocol. This is a protocol that Anthropic created, but that has been adopted by the whole industry. And at Microsoft right now, we're busy baking MCP into every one of our products. So it's in Copilot Studio, it's in AI Foundry, it's in VS Code. And we're literally like putting it everywhere, and we're working with Anthropic on the spec to have a better security. So my colleague Dan Delimarsky gave a talk at Build about that. He gave a talk at the MCP conference that happened the same week as Build, and there's lots of activity around that. MCP protocol is pretty simple. It's a protocol that lets a model that has the reasoning capabilities and that is driving an agent. It lets a model talk to a service and use tools. So if you're a service and you expose an API, for example, you can expose it to the model with a bit of metadata to say, hey, if you need to execute SQL query on that database, I have a tool that lets you do that, and I expose it to you. So that's tools. It also exposes what is called resources, which are essentially web pages or other things that the model can consume to understand a domain. So for example, at Microsoft, we have an MCP server for all our documentation. So it's called the Microsoft Learn MCP server. If you install it in VS Code, VS Code will have access to all Microsoft Learn documentation that can explain to VS Code how to deploy an app to Azure. There's an MCP server for Azure that has access to the Azure CLI, so it can like create some commands and start interacting with your Azure subscription. I'll show you a demo of that. That said, there's always in the UX, in the user interface, there's a human angle there where before sending some commands, it's going to ask you, hey, I'm planning to do this. Are you okay with that? And then because it's using your credentials, and then you get to say, actually, you're going to do that. I prefer you to do it this way or that way instead of deploying that way. So you can have an interaction, but it gives tools to the client, to the model. And then there's a notion of prompts as well, where you can have an MCP server that provides some set of prompts that corresponds to your domain area with variables in there. So they are like templates. And then the model can leverage these prompts to say, hey, if you ask me, you can ask me questions like this. This is the type of stuff that with these tools and resources I can do. So MCP protocol, super important. It's adopted everywhere right now. Like Google adopted it. I think Amazon as well. Recently, they integrated that into their queue system. And at Microsoft, you'll find it everywhere. Lots of activity in there. So it's really fascinating. So I'm going to show you a demo of MCP protocol in action. So I'm going to share my VS Code instance. Okay, so that's VS Code Insider, and the thing that I started in there. So here, what you can see, it's an agent project in Python, and here I wanted to show you this window on the right here. It's GitHub Copilot agent mode that is installed in VS Code. Here I set it in agent mode. You can see that I could switch the model. So here I could use GPT 4.1, 4.0. I'm using a new one that the Anthropic team released recently called Claude Sonnet 4. It's in preview mode, but it's really very good. And in there, I can ask it questions like, what is this project? So I just checked out this project from GitHub. Some of my colleagues worked on it. What is this project about? What is it doing? And so here, GitHub Copilot is looking at the code base, it's trying to understand it, and then it's analyzing it. And it explained that this is a project that helps you build your first agent using Azure AI Agent Service. And so it explains the structure of the project, what services it's using, and all that. But then I could ask it, how do I deploy it to Azure? And there, while it's reasoning, here you see using at Azure get deployed best practices, get deployment best practices. I wanted to show you what it's doing. So here there's a little sign with tools. When I click on it, I see actually the list of tools that the GitHub Copilot has access to. And these tools are actually MCP servers. So you can see here that I installed the Azure MCP server. And then an Azure MCP server exposes tools like get the account list, key value show, key value set. So these are actions to my Cosmos DB, to the extension in the AZ CLI, to Key Vault, Custo. So there's a bunch of Postgres. There's a bunch of services in Azure that have tools associated to them that the MCP server gives access to GitHub Copilot. So GitHub Copilot can issue some commands then based on that. And you can see I deactivated many of them, but I have a bunch of MCP servers in there. There's one for GitHub where I can interrogate it about my GitHub issues. There's one for ADO. Gordon is the one from Docker that helps me build Docker images and interact with my containers in Docker Desktop. Perplexity is a search engine, so it can interact with it. Azure API Center has its own MCP server, load testing as well. So So these are all the MCP servers that are available in GitHub, in VS Code, and there are many more. What it's been doing here, when I asked it, how do I deploy it with Azure, you can see that it's using the @Azure MCP server. And then if I click on the link here, it's going to give me the detail of the interaction, like what did it send to the MCP server, and what file did he look for, and then he gives me a solution in there to say, hey, you need to configure it this way, you need to create a Docker file, and then I could ask it, please deploy this app to Azure using the AZ CLI. And there it's going to like look at the plan that is made over there, and it's looking at the deployment best practices. So these deployment best practices are actually coming from they're coming from Microsoft Learn. So then it's looking at the authentication state with Azure that I have right now in VS Code. So I'm actually logged in. He's looking at my subscription, and then he's asking me, hey, do you want me to pick a subscription? And if I say continue, it's going to list my subscription and tell me which one do you want to use and all that. So I'm going to stop that. That gives you an idea of what this looks like. So that's, I'm going to go back to the deck there, but that kind of gives you, and these MCP servers that you show that I demoed here, they are available you can use them in AI Foundry. You can use them in your own agents. You can use them in Copilot Studio. So it's really a very strong. It's the new Kevin Scott in his keynote compared it to HTTP, and I kind of agree. It's a very simple protocol that exposes things in a simple way. And it plays the role that HTTP used to play during the growth of the web. Once you make available some tools and resources for your agents, then you need to start the next level is another protocol that was proposed by Google and that was adopted by Microsoft and many others, which is a protocol that sits on top of MCP, and that's called the A2A protocol, the agent to agent. So MCP is about a model getting tools and resources from an MCP server. A higher level of abstraction is once you have built an agent that leverages these MCP servers to do some things in the world and to understand a specific area of the world, then you could have another company building another agent that uses other MCP servers, but you may want to have the two agents talk together. So the agent-to-agent protocol is a higher level protocol that builds on top of MCP, but extends it to agent-to-agent communication. And so here, the two agents are going to negotiate what kind of context do they share with each other, and there's a protocol to define what their interaction is about. And so, as you can imagine, there's a whole security angle here where if I start having an MCP server that gives you access to my database and my Azure subscription to deploy things, you could imagine that for attackers, these are like assets and data that they very much want to have access to. And so we already saw some attacks going on some MCP as an attack vector where people started doing experiment for how to thwart your agent and try to get access to these resources exposed by MCP. And so that means the MCP server need to be secured. So there's a whole work going on in the MCP working group. I think they released a new version of the spec last week that includes some of the security recommendation about what type of identity do you give the MCP server because it's representing you as a user. What kind of access rights do you give it access to when accessing data from the enterprise? And so at Microsoft, a lot of what we're doing is securing all the AI platform to make sure that you can use it within companies in a secure way. And so we're very active in that space, and there's a lot to learn in there. Again, my colleague Dan Delimorsky, just follow him on Twitter, LinkedIn. He's publishing a bunch of stuff, and there's some lot of activity on that these days. Lots of things going on. This is an example of a recent toxic agent flow where people were able to poison an interaction with the GitHub Copilot agent. So it's been fixed since then. So that's why I'm sharing this here. But you can take a look at the analysis in there. What they were doing is that they, by creating an issue in a GitHub repo, they were able to have the agent through the interaction with the GitHub MCP server expose some private repositories that were not open to the public through creating an issue. So that's an example of things that we need to watch out for when we're embracing this agent world. One of the things that one project should really take a look at that was released at Build by the Office of the CTO team is called NL Web. So what NL Web is doing is that these MCP servers, you need to build them yourself. So that's some work, and there are some SDKs into the various languages to help you do that. And if you want to connect MCP with some enterprise sources that talk a specific protocol, you need to do that yourself. But there's one protocol that everyone talks, and that's very simple, that's HTTP. And there's a lot of resources that exist on the web. And so what Microsoft did is that it created this project called NL Web, which is helping you turn any website into an MCP server that you can then plug into your LLM of choice. And the way it's working is that it's analyzing your website, it's cutting it into chunks, vectorizing all this into a vector database, and then exposing that as a resource through MCP to a model. So that means you can ask a model about questions about something. If your website talks about that topic, this service that is open source, that you can deploy the way you want, will make your website available to any LLM. So that's a very promising project, and it's a very easy way to get started with all these. So that's kind of the story of all these protocols. Now let's talk about how do you use these agents as a developer. So the first one is there's a new agent that was introduced at Build that's called the GitHub Copilot Coding Agent. So it's not the agent mode in VS Code that I showed you, which is more an agent that runs on that you pair program with. The coding agent is actually running in the background. You can assign it some issues on GitHub. It can create your test. It can create your application. You collaborate with it like you would do with a software engineer. I'm just going to show you what it looks like. So I will share another window. Okay, great. Okay, so what I'm showing you here is a GitHub repo. It's the Azure Search OpenAI demo. It's one of our favorite repo, or most popular repo that people use a lot. It's a big sample app that lets you create a retrieval augmented generation application using Azure Search and OpenAI. Very popular repo. It's in Python. There's a lot of people using it. But then when you look in the documentation, you see this architecture diagram that's very simple. It's like, I'd like to know in more details what the architecture looks like beyond this. So I am going to go there, and I'm going to say, create a mermaid diagram for the architecture of this app. And typically, a mermaid diagram, that's a lot of work. I could assign it to myself, but in there, I don't have the time to do that. And I think like other developers who are in there are busy as well. But you can see there's a developer here that's Copilot, your AI per programmer. So I can start assigning issues to Copilot. And so I'm not going to show you the whole how this happened. So I've done that in the past. So I created that issue, create an architecture diagram for the app using Mermaid.js. I assigned it to Copilot. That was 3 weeks ago. And Pamela like closed my issue because it's like, hey, it's a neat diagram, but you're messing my project. But what it did is that Copilot went to work by itself. And you can see here, it lasted, that's why I'm accelerating the thing here. It lasted for 10 minutes. So it worked for 10 minutes. And here in the logs, you can see what it did. So it's showing you, hey, I'm just exploring the repo. I'm reading the README. I'm trying to understand what this thing is doing. And then I'm looking what the images are available. So it's analyzing the images. Then it's analyzing the app structure. And blah, blah, blah. And it's working and it's working. And then at some point, I wanted to show you a little bit more. Here it's so GitHub, the coding agent, is working in a container, so it can issue some commands. So here you can see that it did some git commands on my repo. It ran a bash script. And that bash script actually generated, so it installed some software, ran a bash script, and then created this architecture diagram. And then it sent a PR to my repo. And so if you're going in there, I think, oh no, it's in there. If you're going in there, it sends some commits. And when I'm looking at the commits that it sent in there, you would see this is the mermaid diagram. And I can show it to you in rich diff. And boom, it created all this. So that's a more detailed view of my Python backend with the authentication area. Is it speech enabled? So there I have a much better understanding of what's going on in my tooling in there. So that shows you what you can do with a GitHub coding agent. All right, so let me stop sharing. I'm going to stop sharing and I'm going to go back to the presentation here. So GitHub Copilot coding agent, it's available today. You can add it to your teams, and then developers can start leveraging that virtual developer today to help you with your projects. Okay, so we're done with the demo. There's other agents that were announced at Build. One of them is the Azure SRE agent. So this one is more an agent that is looking at your apps in production and is helping you like find some issues in a proactive way. It's looking at the logs, it's detecting incidents, and it automates all the tasks associated to managing these issues. So this is an example of what it looks like. It's going to like analyze your Azure subscription and the apps that you deploy, and it's going to go through them and help you solve incidents. So the whole area of a service reliability engineer will get some help from that from these agents. Okay, so now let's talk about using AI agents. So in M365, if you're not a developer, you can use Microsoft 365 Copilot, and in there, there's a lot of agents that are available. So you can chat, you can search, there's a notebook agent, there's a create agent that lets you create pictures and things like that. And my favorite is the researcher agent. And there's a whole agent store that is associated to M365 Copilot. So just go in the agent store and start exploring it. I'm just going to show you what the researcher agent looks like. And let me share my screen. I'm going to go back to that I'm going to go back to that browser window. Okay, so we were in the Mermaid demo there. Okay, very good. You see it. So I'm going back there. And here I'm going to go. So this is a Copilot here. And in there, so I'm in M365 Copilot. It has access to all my enterprise data. And there's a panel. I can extend the navigation. And there you can see a bunch of agents in there. So you can see there's a AXNE Copilot agent. So that's one that I built. I'm going to show you later. And then there's one, if I look at all agents, there's one that's called the researcher agents, and it's built by Microsoft. I'm going to open it. And so once I open it, I can start asking it questions. Okay, I'm just going to shift reload because it's, okay, what do you want to search? Oh, no, I just want to, all agents, I want to go to the researcher one. Yeah, please open that. Okay, so what do you want to research today? So I would like, or please create a report about the A2A, the MCP and A2A protocols, and what new capabilities they enable for the developers. So I'm just going to show you the beginning of it. So what it's doing is that it's starting to analyze this, then it's searching on the web because it's tied to M365 Copilot. It's also looking on SharePoint, so it's going to find some internal sources. And it's going to start building a plan, and then it's going to ask me question like, do you want to add these sources or these sources? Okay. So to make sure I understand you, okay, so there it's asking some, do you have a specific deadline? Like how much time can I think? That's what it's asking me in reality. So you remember that scaling low, that is there a specific deadline? It's tied to this. It's like, how much can I think about this? So I'm not going to show you more details on that because we're running out of time. And there's some other stuff I wanted to show you, but that's kind of like using these agents is a good, using the agents and then changing them with Copilot Studio or building your own with Copilot Studio is a great way of leveraging AI agents. Okay, so I'm just going to go back there. I showed you a demo of researcher agent. Now let's talk about building your own agents. So for agents, there are a few considerations you need to think about. What type of knowledge you want to give them, what type of actions, what is the security and evaluation. And you can think about the Microsoft approach there to giving you options to build your agents as in the cloud with infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, and software as a service metaphors, where infrastructure as a service, if you want to build everything by yourself and have complete control on the GPUs you're using, the specific models you're building yourself, we provide you an IaaS layer, Azure AI infrastructure. We have GPUs, we have chips of various providers, and you can build your own stack in there. And actually, that's what OpenAI does. OpenAI is built on top of Azure, and they're training their own models and building them on our infrastructure. So we have a strong infrastructure that's very secure and that's used by the leader of the market in AI models. Then you have a platform layer, which is what we call Azure AI Foundry. And if you're a developer, that's what I recommend using. So this is a set of services that lets you run multiple models, have all the tooling that is necessary to build your AI application, train them, and fine-tune them, and then build apps on top with an agent service that I'm going to demo. And then there's the last one is software as a service. It's if you're not a developer, or if you're a developer and you find that you don't need all the flexibility from Azure AI Foundry and you want to go faster, there's Copilot Studio. And I'm a developer, I find myself going to Copilot Studio more and more for many use cases. Copilot Studio is like it's like Office or Excel back in the days, where it's really, you can start automating your stuff without needing to code at all. You're just interacting with the system with prompts. You can plug your enterprise sources in there. You can plug your MCP servers, and you can create your agents and make them available to your colleagues. So Copilot Studio, I'd say my recommendation is you go from the right to the left here, where you start with Copilot Studio. If it cannot do it, you go with AI Foundry. If it cannot do it, you build your own. I say building your own, probably for if you're building your own AI models. So Copilot Studio, let's talk about that briefly because I'm running out of time a little bit. Copilot Studio introduced that build things like computer use. So now you can have agents that use a computer that is going to be a virtual machine in Azure and that launch some applications in there. Model control context protocol is now integrating Copilot Studio. So all the MCP servers I showed you in VS Code, you can now leverage them in your Copilot Studio agents. And then they have agent flow as well. The other new thing that's been announced is multi-agent orchestration, where you can start, I think it's using A2A protocol, and you can start orchestrating several agents in Copilot Studio. I wanted to show you a brief demo of a Copilot Studio agent that I built. I'm just going to share my screen again. Okay, so I was showing you that. So I wanted to share the AXNE team assistant. So AXNE is Azure Experience and Ecosystem. And this one is an agent that I built for my team and the other teams at Microsoft. So for example, Dominique and I work in different organizations, and if he wants to talk to my team, we're doing developer relations for all technologies at Microsoft. He can go to the AXNE team assistant and says, who can help me with Java developer relations? And so this is defined in the SharePoint site that I have built with my team, and we have some decks on PowerPoint and our SharePoint site. And so these are key people in the developer relations team that are listed. So Julien Dubois, Marc Baiza, and then there's a bunch of strategy document that it shares in there. And so the way this thing is built, the XNI team assistant, it's built where I can edit it here. And the way it's built, it's connected to the SharePoint for my team that is available internally. And then I tell it, okay, these are the instructions, you're a helpful assistant. You can go to my SharePoint site and all that. Into the data sources, you can see that it's connected to like Microsoft for Startups, developer relations team. I could give it some capabilities like code interpret. It could interpret code, so I don't need that for this one. I just need it to be connected to SharePoint and others. And then I can suggest some different prompts. So these are the prompt templates that you can do through MCP servers as well. So that's kind of Copilot Studio. It's a very easy way to get started with all these technologies. So after Copilot Studio, when if something are not possible with Copilot Studio, with all the tools and MCP servers and workflows that you have access in there, the next step is to go to AI Foundry. And AI Foundry exposes like many models. There's an agent service. It has services like search when you're building a retrieval augmented generation app. Azure Search is really fantastic and does a lot of heavy lifting for you. A lot of Azure AI services, machine learning, content safety. So there's a whole responsible AI angle, and we provide you services for that. There's one layer of observability that is common in there. Identity, governance, and security are taken care of. There are some SDKs for it. And then you can run it in Azure. There's a version that runs locally where you can run your models locally on your laptop with Foundry Local. And it's connected to all the rest of Azure, so you can leverage them from AKS, from app services, container apps, or whatever you're using to deploy your apps. Many models available there from OpenAI, very popular ones, but also from Cohere, Databricks, and lots of other partners. The Sora API at Build was announced as coming soon. Image preview, GPT image previews. Look at the Build announcements. There's been a lot of new capabilities made available in AI Foundry. One of the ones that's really useful is this model router for Azure OpenAI models. As a developer, you're not sure which model, based on the prompt that people are asking you to do. Which model should I call? And now we have a router that can, based on what is the request, can route the request to the most efficient model for it. So there's always a cost to performance aspect that now can be automated. Some of the models that were announced from Grok, the one from DeepSeek, Meta, Mistral. So there are lots of models in there. And there's all the models from Hugging Face that are available in there. So if you find a model that you really like on Hugging Face, you can run it on Azure AI Foundry. There's some integration with ACA, with Azure Functions. AKS has a whole tool chain operator that lets you run models in AKS. And then there's the Azure OpenAI extension for Azure Functions. Foundry Local lets you run your models locally on your laptop. And then the Foundry Agent service helps you build agents. And so for these agents, an agent is there's an LLM service. So you're running it on Foundry. You pick your model. Then you have a bunch of instructions and some tools. And tools can retrieve things. There can be actions or memory. And then you give some input to your agent. They can be like system events. They can be asynchronous events that trigger your agent. They can be user messages or other agent messages. And then it creates an output. And then what's coming up is these agents are going to be connected to each other, and you can create workflows with several agents. And there will be a session showing a semantic kernel, which is one of the framework that lets you build these workflows. So a single agent, I'm going to show you one that's using a bunch of tools and some tools to execute some code and do some things. And then multi-agent, you can use frameworks like semantic kernel that are, or AutoGen that are open source and managed by Microsoft. Azure AI Foundry implements a lot of APIs, like the response API from OpenAI, A2A, the MCP protocol, and all that. And it can import external agents through these protocols and expose your agent externally through these protocols as well. So agent in AI Foundry, it's a pretty complete set of services that you can leverage in there. And when you use a AI agent service, so you specify a large language model you want to use, the set of tools you want to use, you launch threads, which are units of execution, and then you run your agent tasks. And I'm going to show you a demo, a real quick demo of AI agent service in action. And so what you have in there is that we'll have an agent that creates a thread. What it's doing is that it's an agent that is connected to a SQLite database that has some SQL data about Contoso sales, the sales of a fictional Contoso company. So I'm creating an agent in Python that's going to use a GPT, large language model. Is going to be created to a tool that is analyzing, that is creating SQL queries to SQLite, that is doing SQL queries, and then is going to use a coding sandbox. So it's going to generate some Python code to create some visualization for me. And so that's the quick demo I wanted to show you, and it's the window I shared with you earlier, my main.py. VS Code window. Can you see it, Dominique? Yeah, very good. So I'm just going to go there. As you can see, main.py, it's a very simple Python file. So here I import a bunch of libraries. I set a plugin. I have a bunch of environment variable for my environment. And then I set up the project. And here I add some tools. So I'm going to add a tool to it. I'm creating a vector store, a file search, the code interpreter tool, and I'm creating a Bing connection so I can ground my agents in Bing. And so let's start the agent. So I'm just going to run that. It's a Python program. So I'm going to run it, and it's going to connect to the agent service.
Yeah. So what Patrick is showing is you can do it through the portal, and as Patrick here used for DevOps purpose, he use the SDK to provision the agent.
That's good, Dominique. Good reminder. Here, I'm showing you the SDK and the programmatic usage, but you can do all this in the portal. And I'm going to show you the portal right after that. So a query here for this thing is that actually, do I have a previous query? So for example, what beginner stand do our competitors sell and include prices? So this one is using the Bing grounding. So it's not actually using my database. It's going to search on Bing for actual tents that people are selling, that actual shops. But I could do show sales by region as a pie chart. And so what it's going to do there is that it needs to generate a SQL query. So it's generating a query around the SQLite database. It's doing the query, and then it's generating some Python code to create the visualization based on this data. And then it's generating a file that is on my local file system. And if I take a look at it, this is the sales. So this is an example, and you could do all this. I'm going to share another window. You could do all this in the portal as well. Okay, can you see my screen? Yeah.
Yeah.
So if I'm in the portal in there, I can go to agents. So this is AI Foundry portal. I'm going to go to agents, and here you can see my Contoso sales agent. I have some details about the thread and what is going on, what it did in there. I have a description of the agent. You can see it's connected to Bing. There's a vector store. There's a function that's been... So all the details are available in the portal. And so you can do it as code in there, or go in the portal and do all this. So that's kind of that concludes the demo, and I'm going to conclude the talk pretty quickly. Where let me see, I'm just going to go back to the presentation. I just had one more thing I wanted to share with you, which is the example that you saw. It's part of a workshop that my team has been creating. So you'll find all that workshop, and you'll learn more about all this on the Azure AI Foundry community channels in there. So there's a Discord, and there's a discussion on GitHub, ak.ms Azure AI Foundry /forum, and ak.ms /AI/Discord. So highly recommend you to go in there, and you'll find all the samples and workshops for all of this. Now let's talk about agent security briefly. There's been a fantastic session by Pamela Fox and Sarah Young at Build. I highly recommend going, listening to that session that talks about all the security aspects of all this, and how you need to secure your AI apps. And the last thing I wanted to share is that now that I presented you all of these, I really like this diagram a lot that talks about how to innovate with AI, where the black circle in there is what humans can do that machines could automate. The white circle in there is the thing that humans can do. And I think the opportunity for all of us, and people mostly focus on these two circles, is that big gray area. And this diagram comes from one of these future report that you can find in there. This big gray area there, which is the thing that humans and AI working together can do. And I think this is the opportunity for us with these new tools, working with AI in teams to create new capabilities and innovate and create things that we couldn't have created by ourselves. So please join us on our community channels on Discord and on the AI Foundry Forum. I hope this will give you a desire to dig deeper. Thank you, Dominique, for inviting me for this keynote. Again, this is a series. So Philippe will go into more details about how to do Azure AI agents, and there's a whole series of, oh, thank you. Yeah, so there's a Philippe session. Dominique is giving a session on semantic kernel. Then Olivier will talk about AutoGen, which is another open source framework. And then Frédéric will talk about the AI local and Foundry local. So lots of exciting things to learn. I hope this will give you a desire to go dig deeper and learn more. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Patrick, for this inspiring keynote. So next week, Philippe will take the place and speak about AI agent services that Patrick give you a preview. So thank you very much for participating to this session, and see you next week. Thank you.
Thank you.